Every single one of us have had certain albums or certain songs that gives us so much emotional reactions, even if it's from start to finish of the entire song or of the entire album, depending on the theme. I have one album that has been making me cry since 2010, but even more since 2011, and I'll also tell you why. And that album, which I have in my hand right now, is Ryuichi Sakamoto's The Adventures of Chatran, or Konogo Monogatari, the soundtrack. Kick It Away Me. On July 12th of 1986, a Japanese animal film called Konogo Monogatari, which is translated Kitten's Tale, or better known as The Adventures of Chatran, was released. The story of the film is basically about a kitten named Chatran, who is a orange tabby cat. First a kitten and then becomes a cat later on in the film. And he goes on his own little adventure, also befriends a pug named Pusky. They also suffer various source of danger. Now, a film like this should have been animated, but because they use live action animals, we get what we get. The film has faced several controversies because of the allegations of animal cruelty, especially during certain scenes, especially the scene in which Chatran fell from a mountain right into a river while he was fighting some birds. The film was eventually reissued in 1989, entirely in English, and retitled what we best know as The Adventures of Milo and Otis. And the film is also narrated by Dudley Moore, and the entire Sakamoto score was replaced with classical composers. That film was approved by the American Humane Society. The film was pretty popular. Even a video game adaptation was made for the Famicom. The soundtrack itself was fully composed by Sakamoto, and it does consist of 13 tracks. My introduction to the album came around 2010. Now, around that time, I will admit that I was illegally downloading these albums from these different blog spots, especially since I had a major interest in Asian music, especially Japanese. And my love for Ryuichi Sakamoto was increasing at the time, which led to him being my #1 favorite musician in the world. Now, when I first listened to the album, I couldn't help but to start tearing up because I love cats. I've been adopting cats since 1992. Now, around 2010, there was a stray cat who had her first litter. All of her first litter died. Every time when I listened to that album, it made me think of them a lot. When she had her second litter, my favorite kitten in the entire world, Miyagi the First, was born. And sadly, what made me cry even more every time I listened to this album, on January 2nd of 2011, around 2:30 a.m. in the morning, after hearing a very loud meow from Miyagi the First, when I left him, his mom, and his siblings outside, I look outside, there were 4 dogs in the backyard who attacked and killed not only Miyagi the First, but also his sister Diamond, an unrelated kid named Tangerine. I don't even know if he was related to them, who was an orange tabby, but leaving his brother Tigra, the only survivor, and unharmed. Miyagi was of course mauled, one of his legs was bit off. It left me in so much emotion to the point that every time I listen to that album, it reminds me so much of him. Miyagi the First, the reason why he was my favorite kitten is because he was different from any other feline that I ever had. Like, one of my favorite moments when he was alive, I remember one time I was drinking some juice, and when I put the juice down, he walked up to the juice and started licking some of the juice. Miyagi was 5 days away of being 3 months old, him and his siblings, and I was going to only adopt him and his brother Orange Glad. Now, when I think about it, I think of Miyagi as, and he was just the most loving kid that I ever had. So whenever I play this album on every January 2nd, I think of him. And I play the entire album on every January 2nd as like a tribute to him. That's pretty much my story on why this album makes me cry a lot. Every single one of us, we do have a particular song or a particular album that we can't help but to shed tears to. The album itself, I give it at least about 4.5 stars. Now, the album itself is not on streaming services, but you can listen to it on YouTube. Thank you for listening to my story on an album that makes me cry. And you guys have a good day and Happy New Year to y'all. Hopefully 2025 will be better for you, and I hope it'll be better for me. And rest in peace to Miyagi the First. He would have been 15 years old in human years this year. DOGTBH in the place, and I'm out of here.